Rick and Morty Season 3, Episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. I think people are kind of bummed out that this was the before last episode of Season 3, which means we're gonna have to wait who knows how long for Season 4. The wait for this season was 2 years, so maybe July 2019, which means by the time that comes out, we'll have 2 new Avengers movies, 2 new Star Wars movies, and if we're lucky, the final season of Game of Thrones, assuming the world doesn't explode. Fingers crossed. So anyway, let's cherish Rick and Morty while we still can and look at Easter eggs and references in Rick and Morty Season 3, Episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. If you're new to the channel, please do consider hitting that YouTube subscribe button and turning on notifications to stay up to date with our content. So first of all, the title of this episode, The ABCs of Beth, was a play on the 2012 anthology horror film, The ABCs of Death. That was a project made up of 26 short horror films, none of which really seem to have anything to do with this episode of Rick and Morty though. But late in the episode, Beth lists off things that matter to her and includes ABC's The Bachelor. So maybe The ABCs of Beth was about Beth deciding what matters to her most, or it was just a cool sounding name. This was actually the first episode of Rick and Morty to include Beth's name in the title. That made her the first family member to have her name in an episode title other than Rick and Morty. Unless you count Gazorpazorp from the episode Raising Gazorpazorp, because he's technically family too. Another thing in this episode is that Rick uses some chalk to open up a doorway to a different magical realm. And that's something we've seen before in stuff like Pan's Labyrinth and that old Nickelodeon show Chalk Zone. It's not clear if they were trying to reference one of those in particular, or if it was just a cool new way to travel somewhere without using the portal gun again. The episode also gave us a reference to Reddit. Rick says a dad makes a toilet look like R2-D2 and it breaks the front page of Reddit. As far as we can tell, this isn't an actual thing that happened on Reddit, but the fact that nobody was really sure of that kind of confirms the point they were making about Reddit. Also, it seems like Dan Harmon used this exact thing as an example of the kind of stuff that Reddit goes crazy for in a tweet from back in 2015. He said, "I wish I could just be a dad that made an R2-D2 toilet." Now let's take a look at Jerry's girlfriend. She's just a whole mixed bag of references to super sexualized aliens from movies and TV. First off, Jerry compares her body to Cheetara from Thundercats. But there's also some Na'vi in there with the talk of soul bonding and kind of a cat face and blue skin. Also, there are, let's just say, 3 references to this alien from Total Recall. There's also some Ayla Secura from Star Wars with blue skin and brown clothes and telekinesis, and definitely some Predator too with the head shape. And these guys got some Predator as well, with the whole mouth thing. Sci-fi fans probably caught that Beth called Morty Isaac Asahole as a reference to Isaac Asimov, who was one of the most famous sci-fi writers of all time. The episode also introduced us to the super disgusting Tommy, voiced by Silicon Valley's Thomas Middleditch. And this was easily one of the grossest things of the entire season, if not the whole show. Tommy reproduces with imaginary beings and then eats his offspring in order to survive in the world that Beth trapped him in as a child. Couple of things there. It seemed to be kind of a play on Jumanji, where a kid gets trapped in some sort of childhood thing and somehow survives till he's a grown man with a beard. Except the Rick and Morty version had a lot more incest and cannibalism, a whole lot more. Also, at a certain point, Tommy calls Beth the Destroyer. That seemed like a reference to Drax the Destroyer and just one of the many Marvel references this season. There was a Blade Runner reference from Rick when he offers to clone Beth so she can go live freely, and that's definitely gonna open up a lot of fan theories moving forward as to whether or not Beth decided to do that or not. Judging by her looking at pictures of her family and Mr. Poopy Butthole, it seems like she didn't. But theorists gonna theorize. Also, kind of ironically, the show quickly shut down what was definitely gonna turn into some fan theories. When Rick jumps to another dimension to grab a pizza, he specifies that it wasn't time travel and there were just a couple of pizzas on the counter, so he grabbed them. Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland have a firm stance against time travel in the show, so that seemed like them letting us all know that that's not what that was. One final thing to bring up is that this is the second episode in a row that features Rick drinking from a can that says Foonies on it. Maybe that's nothing, but if you know that that's a reference to anything, let us know in the comments. And also, if you caught the promo for the finale, the President of the United States mentions that there are some kind of alien Googas. That's a reference to a short made by Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland years ago.
What the hell are these crazy Googas? Right? That's what we're gonna call them?
That's it for today's quick list. Let us know in the comments section what you thought of this episode and what you think will happen in the season finale. Also, if you caught any Easter eggs that we missed, be sure to leave a comment. And if you're watching this on Facebook, you can hit the link to jump over to YouTube and subscribe to us for more Rick and Morty stuff. Thanks for watching.